Hello, you're watching TVP World Talks. I'm Andréas Hatzidiakos. Russian leader Vladimir Putin vowed to continue military pressure on Ukraine, rejecting President Zelensky's offer to limit long-range strikes and insisting Moscow would achieve its objectives in the battlefield. But is Putin's defiance a sign of strength or of weakness? Joining us here today is Andréas Hatzidiakos, director at the OPEWI, Europe's War Institute. Hello and welcome to TVP World.
Good morning.
So let's begin with the essentials. Do you think that what Putin said was essentially propaganda speech, or is there any substance to it?
Well, what is sure is that it's Putin admitting that there is a cost to the war is something new, right? So I don't think it changes the war or the economics of war, but what is sure is that now Putin admitting that there is a cost to the Russian population and also to the Russian economy is a start not of a fracture, but a sign that something is about to change.
So speaking of change, some people say that cracks are beginning to show on the regime in Moscow. Putin is being pressured from basically both sides, one could say. We have those who don't really want the war to continue, but also you have the zealots, you have the pro-war bloggers who are accusing Putin of being too soft. Which of these two sides, do you think, has a greater sway over the Russian leader, if any?
I don't believe, honestly, that Putin is listening to anyone. He has waged a war against Ukraine. This is a long-time objective that he's been pursuing, and he's continuing his efforts to completely annihilate whatever he can in the region. So now the problem is that indeed there are some factions in Russia that start saying that Putin is too soft, which is quite ironic, I have to say. But what we have to focus on is facts. Now, for the moment, Ukraine has waged a 40-day operation against Russia. This is something that will dramatically change also how the war is being conducted. Also because now Ukraine has changed the game, not only thanks to the drones, but also regarding strategy. Now we're not looking at a war that is taken in the borders, in the frontiers between Russia and Ukraine, but deep into Russia. So the real question is now, how is Putin going to react in the next 20, 30 to 40 days? Is he going to try to bridge the gap, or is he going to try to provocate military, also potentially European countries that are near Russia's neighborhood?
How likely would such scenario be, in your opinion? Do you think that Putin would simply risk it all and try to create a new front, or at least to provoke NATO in a way that could prove to be unpredictable for Russia?
I mean, there are a lot of parameters that we have to take into account. First of all, the thing is that there is quite some fresh intelligence coming from Baltic states saying that Putin is envisaging to military provocate countries near Russia. What is sure is that now Putin is going to try to take advantage from the fact that the war in Iran is slowly de-escalating. He's going also to take advantage of the fact that President Trump has repeatedly said that NATO's place in Europe should not be the same as it was a few years ago. He's going to take also advantage of the fact that Trump definitely wants to take NATO out of the EU. So from now on,
what do you mean, take NATO out of the...
fact?
Yeah, but I just wanted to clarify. You mean, are you referring to Trump's suggestions that America will reduce its military presence in Europe in general, or something else?
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, but the fact that
But it's not a
Trump
complete
is always,
withdrawal. It's a reduction. He says that Europe must take more responsibility for its own defense, but it's not a complete withdrawal, isn't it?
not a complete withdrawal, but what he's advancing is also putting a toll to NATO as a whole. Of course, it's not a withdrawal, but we are starting here in Europe to discuss about a European NATO, right, or a Europeanization of NATO, which would mean that EU member states would take the big gulp of NATO, right? So this, in adjunction to the fact that Trump is taking out his troops from Germany and other countries, etc., is also opening the way for a more European way of doing things in Europe through NATO, right? So this is also something that we have to take into consideration and put down flat, right? Of course, there is no question about closing NATO or whatever, but the real question is about the US presence within NATO, right? Are other countries such as France or other big European countries going to take the lead in NATO? This is what could be hoped for. But coming back to the question, military provocations in Europe are very likely to come, not from the conventional side of things, but through hybrid attacks, cyber attacks, because, I mean, now Putin does not have the option of opening another front in Europe, right? Also because European countries now in the past 3 to 4 years have dramatically increased their defense industry, their defense spending. They have integrated also Ukrainian industry in the European industry effort. So conventional front, no, but we should expect cyber attacks, hybrid attacks, and mostly 2 European countries that are near Russia.
But what would such attacks achieve? I mean, if we're talking about something that's below the threshold of war, again, this could be like the situation in Poland where we had trains being derailed by explosive devices planted on the rails. Nothing happened in terms of casualties, luckily. We've also had the drone incursions, exploding parcels in other countries. But it is often said that Russia wants to discourage European countries from supporting Ukraine. But are actions like that likely to achieve this result? Or would Russia need to go further, closer to the threshold of conflict? And again, you know, the risk appears that NATO would actually respond to it. What would be Russia's endgame here?
Well, Russia's endgame is not to wage war against European countries. This is not something that is achievable nor desirable from Russia's point of view. But what they are seeking is to divide alliance, to slow down Western support to Ukraine, and also to impose important costs on NATO. To divide alliance, meaning that the idea for Putin is to try to focus on the fact that Trump is taking out military bases from Europe, focusing also on the fact that Trump repeatedly said that, you know, Europeans have to take more responsibility in Europe through NATO. So there is no need for Putin to open a new front or to really provoke militarily through a conventional force Europe. They just need to sow divide and to make sure that Europeans understand that there is a cost to supporting Ukrainians. And this is quite enough if Russia wants to continue its slow but sure attack in Ukraine.
How should Europe respond to it? Let's assume that Russia moves forward with a hybrid operation. A few troops bearing no identifying insignia appear on a small island on the Baltic and proclaim this to be Russian territory, or that they are conducting some humanitarian operation, they might call it. Whatever the excuse. Now, what should be the reaction in such case?
Well, first of all, I don't believe there would be such an open hybrid operation in the Baltics.
So no Crimean scenario, right? Operation. You don't think a Crimean scenario is something that's on the cards?
I don't believe so, because there is the NATO Article 5 that could be triggered. That could be also the Article 42.7 of the Treaty on the European Union that could be triggered. That is basically the same as the Article 5, in which all European countries have to support another European country that is being under attack. So only from that side, I don't think Russia would open another front by, invading another country. I'm thinking more about hybrid, very discrete attacks in the neighboring countries or cyber attacks. But what is sure is that Europeans are already responding, first of all, through our support to Ukrainians, but also through the fact that we are reinforcing our European defense industry. A couple of weeks ago, I was in Eurosatory, the biggest European armament expo in Europe, and the fact that there were hundreds of European industries, new European industries. There were 80 Ukrainian industries compared to 30 in 2024. So the European industry is really expanding in Europe, right? Not only thanks to the war, but also because of the war, but also because Europeans have finally understood that it's time to invest in our own defense. And part of the European defense is Ukrainian defense. So this is already a part of the answer. We are investing in defense, and the political will is also there to continue supporting our Ukrainian friends to fight this war against Russia.
And final quick question, would that also tie in with the question of imposing costs? You said Putin wants Europe to know that there is a cost to helping Ukraine. Shouldn't Russia know that if there is any escalation, the cost would be tremendous? Like, the current attacks on oil facilities, only much more frequent and much more destructive, for example.
Definitely. I mean, now Russia is seeing that the war has immediate and bigger costs on its economy than before. Ukrainians now strike as long as 700 kilometers deep into Russia territory, attacking logistical depots, ammunition depots, also oil refineries. This is a real cost to Russian economy, and this is why also Putin admitted that indeed there are some problems. Of course, in the same breath, he said that it's nothing serious and that Russia is standing firmly on its 2 feet. But indeed, there is a cost that is becoming heavier for Russia.
The so-called long-range Ukrainian sanctions, right? This is the term that was used. Andréas Hatzidiakos was our guest today here on TVP World. Thank you very much for joining us and for sharing your insight.
Thank you.
And I'm Andréas Hatzidiakos. You're watching TVP World. Please stay with us for more latest news, updates and commentary.